Hi, boys and girls. Thanks for checking in for our writer's workshop today. We are going to be talking about our sequencing words, which we've talked about this week and last week when we were doing some writing about how to do things. In my class, we talked about how to carve a pumpkin, and we talked about the steps that you have to take and in the order that you have to take the steps in order to carve the pumpkin. We talked about the things that you might need to carve the pumpkin and then what you do after that till you're all the way done. All right. So we see here there are 4 places for us to put some words in order to help us out. So I'm going to show you 4 words, and then I want you to think about, if you could choose, where would you put the words? Which word would you put at number 1, number 2, number 3, and number 4 to match what we're doing in our pictures? Okay? I have the word next. I have the word last. I have the word first. And I have the word then. Excuse me. First and then. Last, next, first, then. Where would you put these words and in what order? You can pause the video here and do some thinking about which word goes at the beginning and after that and after that and at the bottom. Okay? All right, let's come back together. Hopefully you had some time to pause the video and put those words in order. When I'm looking at this picture, I notice that there's something that has a number 1. And in my brain, I know of these words I shared with you, I know that there's one word that means the same thing as number 1 or in the beginning. And in my brain, I know that word is first. First is another fancy word for number 1. All right, so what I'm going to do is uncover and make sure that we were right on track. And let's see, did we find the right word first? We sure did. Awesome thinking, boys and girls. All right, give me a thumbs up if you also thought that first should be at the beginning. Okay. After that, we have these next words. Last, next, and then. And I know that last means the same thing as at the end. So I would put last here at the end. Let's see what our chart says. Did you think of this too, my friends? Oh boy. The last thing we do is draw the face and carve out the face. Awesome. So we have now the first thing that we do and the last thing that we do when we're carving a pumpkin. Let's see. We have 2 more words to fill in. We have next and we have last. Next and then. And I'm wondering if there's a strategy that you have in mind. Maybe you want to just plug one in and see if it works, and then we'll flip-flop and see what works in our brain, okay? Let's try that. All right, we have first, then, next, and last. Okay, let's think about that and see if it makes sense in our brain. Then I'm going to flip the words, and I'll put a different one at the beginning, okay? First, next, then, and last. So think about which one makes sense to your brain. We have first, next, then, last, or first, then, next, and last. Boys and girls, I'm going to tell you, there's not a right or wrong way to use these words. You can change them and mix them up. In my brain, what makes the most sense and the way that we've taught you at school is we use first, next, then, and last. And we have our words in order like this for transitioning and sequencing what we're talking about. Okay? So these words are very important when we're writing, boys and girls, because especially if we're telling somebody how to do something, if I'm telling you to carve a pumpkin, but I told you that the very first step is to cut out the face, I think we would have a problem because we wouldn't have a way to get inside the pumpkin, because before we draw the face and cut out the face, we have to cut the top off of the pumpkin. So it's important that we are very specific when we're using these words. First means it's the first thing we do. Next means that it's the next thing or the second thing that we do. Then is after that, and last is at the very end. Awesome. So now what I want you to do is you can either pause our video or you can do it after the video. But I want you to sit and think about if there are other words that you know that mean the same thing as first, and other words that you know that mean the same thing as next, and other words that you know that mean the same thing as then, and other words that you know that mean the same thing as last. And I'm going to challenge you, boys and girls, to think about those words and to see if you start noticing with your eagle eye these words in the books that you read. When I see you at story time this week, I will make sure to point out these words every time that we find them, because they really help us move through what we're reading and what we're writing. Okay? So my friends, with all of that being said, I have a challenge for you this week. Because we already did some writing using these words, doing some how to carve a pumpkin, how to wash your hands, how to brush your teeth. We've already used these words doing those writings, but now I want to know if we can use these words to tell a story, okay? So for example, you can think about anybody that you want. It can be a true story, meaning that it's nonfiction, or it can be a false story, meaning that it's fiction. It's up to you, boys and girls. If you have something in mind, then you can go ahead and get writing with these words in mind first, and tell me about what happened. Next, then tell me some more. Then add a little bit more. And last is what happens at the end of your story, okay? If you're thinking of a true story, I still want you to use these words. First, next, then, and last, okay? Awesome. If you need a little bit more help coming up with an idea for a story, that's okay too. Sometimes I get stuck and I need a little bit of help thinking. So I have a tool here called Story Dice, and I'm going to roll these dice. And what I found on my story dice is 3 pictures, and I'll show you. They're pretty silly. I'm already thinking of all the ideas I could write a story about. I see a bumblebee, a heart, and a bicycle. Oh my goodness, what if I wrote a story about a bumblebee that loved to ride bikes? I'm wondering if that would be fiction or nonfiction. A bumblebee that rode a bike. It would have to be fiction, wouldn't it? All right, let's roll another and see if we can get even a different idea to help us. All right, I see. Oh my goodness. Ready, my friends? This is Kind of silly. A musical note, a piece of pizza, and a pencil. I'm connecting this pencil to my friend Scribble that I've read about in a book. And Scribble is a drawing that comes to life. So I could write about Scribble eating pizza, then listening to music. Okay, I'll give one more picture idea. That way we really have some things to choose from if we're stuck. And then if you know for sure, you can just use whatever idea you want to. Okay, the last pictures I'm going to show are a sunshine, a shark, and a boat. What ideas could you come up to tell us about sunshine, sharks, and boats using first, next, then, and last? Remember, boys and girls, to check out our writing process page, which is a picture referring to how we do our writing process and just giving you some tips if you get stuck, okay? And that is found on a writing tab on Google Classroom. And also Miss Lavoti has a writing process tab under her writing on Google Classroom, okay? Thank you, boys and girls, for checking in. I cannot wait to hear what you get started on your stories for today. Let's try to at least get get a first started and get a couple more sentences using next and then. And it's okay if we don't get the ending. Okay, let's just get started and see how we do. Alrighty? Have a good day. Happy writing, my friends.